Hey, what is going on, everyone? Most of you guys know who I am, Chris Cusimano. Usually, Chris Cusimano. I should say that slower. I usually do trainings every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. and very rarely do we have a guest. However, Susanna entered my world via the podcast, which I've also trained to did the training for you guys to do. Ironically, I trained it for Keller Williams today in our training thing called Tech the Halls. If you were there, it's great to see you again. Anyways, very rarely do I have a guest or someone that I instantly connect to and highly admire from the second I meet them. And combination where I feel like if I dropped $100 bill, they would pick it up, invest it, and give me back $200. And that is exactly what happened with Susanna Medrano was on our podcast. And the cool thing about it, the way that she closed well over 43 sales, whatever it was, in her first year in real estate, and the way she got her team to almost 1,000 sales in 2020, was all in a way that I don't do. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to try to replicate this. Why don't you come on and teach over the next 2 weeks what you do so they can hear it from the horse's mouth? I'm not saying you're a horse, just it's
okay. It's just because I'm from Texas, you're automatically assuming, well, yes, I was raised on a ranch, so you can go ahead and say that all you want.
Fair enough. So she's a great energy, as you can tell, great personality, great sense of humor. You're instantly going to love her. I think you will as much as I do. And with that, the show is yours. Go for it.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Daniel, for reminding me on to Suit Up Agents. And good evening, guys. My name is Susanna Medrano. I'm a realtor first and also the National Sales and Leadership Coach with Waters International Realty. We are headquartered based out of Austin and also have 18 other offices across the country, one including in Canada, where essentially what my role is I'm responsible for coaching all the team owners, all the team leaders, all the agents, buy side, listing agents, and coordinators. So throughout the week, I'm pretty busy doing that, plus also still producing as a realtor and doing things that, I like to watch my Packers on Sunday and little things like that. So with that said, I did prepare a little slide deck, and feel free to stop me if there's any questions. The theme of tonight is about prospecting. And as you are all well aware, in the market that we are already in, there is absolutely no way possible that you can leave any opportunity unturned. Like, you're gonna have to do all different kinds of things in order to be successful in 2023. Now, I do understand that Chris comes from, I believe, a completely different mindset where, right, Chris, like there's no like lead generation. You do a whole different kind of method on lead generation. But go ahead and chime in on there if you could for me.
Oh, no, I always came to the marketing mindset of connecting on a story brand and on a personal level to have my phone ring as opposed to me making the phone. Sure. Anyways, yeah.
Sure. So who on this call today has to prospect? Okay. For those of you, and I love this to be interactive. For those of you that don't, what methods are you doing in order to stay in front of people?
You guys are on mute.
Yeah, I see Jen.
Oh, no, there's somebody had their hand up. I was actually trying to read their name. That was me figuring out who it was. I think it was Freslin. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
Social media.
Okay. And thank you for sharing that, Jennifer. Would you mind sharing in the last 12 months or 18 months, how many deals you've been able to close?
From social media? Mm-hmm. All my deals are actually from social media right now. So everything, I kind of really bought into Chris's method, and I've just been doubling down on social media, but I do need to kind of start prospecting again here.
I love that. Now I'm going to tell you, 9.5 years ago when I started, I started, well, first off, a little bit about me. Here's the agenda, by the way. Let me go ahead and get to the chase here. So this is going to be our quick agenda here for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to talk in terms of who I am. We're going to dive into what is prospecting, what the reality is of prospecting. I'm going to give you guys some core objectives of what it is when you do it. I'm also going to give you some guidelines upon which, if you follow these guidelines, guys, I guarantee you're going to have success. It's that simple. Also want to give you guys a framework about when you are prospecting. Just keep it simple. Take that LP Mama or whatever else that you have, just put it in the trash can, because that stuff does work, but it doesn't work as effectively as it should now, because the consumer has everything at their fingertips. So we now have to be even more proactive, even more capable of building rapport and bonding at a very early stage on the phone or even face-to-face. So who's Susanna? Well, I'm a girl from Central Texas, grew up on a ranch. And if you had told me 10 years ago that I'd be a realtor, I would have laughed at your face. I would have said, there's no way in hell that I would have ever even gone into sales. I have a degree in government, Mexican-American studies. I was a social worker for about 15 years. And it was at a gala for this nonprofit in town where I was a couple of scotches in, and one of my friends approached me that I hadn't seen in a while. He tapped me on the shoulder. And he's like, Susanna, oh my goodness, you just cleared the room full of judges. I think you should quit your job making $35,000 a year. I think you should quit that job at the American Cancer Society and come work for me as a realtor. And I laughed, but there was something going on in my life where I took that to heart. I'm like, I was never going to break the ceiling if I didn't make some massive changes and bet and go all in on myself. And so I did quit my job. And within 90 days, I did get licensed. I went and joined the brokerage, which I'm still at as a realtor, started as a buyer agent. In my first year, I did help 45 families, close to $12 million, made 13,000 dials that year, by the way. And it was all due to prospecting and really learning about how to overcome objections, where I was able to scale the next year. By the fourth year of the brokerage, I was already the director of sales, because there's always should be some growth. You know, not everybody sometimes wants to be a realtor for 30 years. And in that, it's about leveraging yourself and finding a home where you possibly could and can grow into where you start to take back some of your time and have work-life balance. So I did run our Austin office for 4 years and took the team from what was about 400 transactions a year, 500, 600. And then the last year, as I was there as the director of sales during COVID, we hit close to 1,000, which was unheard of in Central Texas. But again, our team was really, really empowered. And as you can imagine, it was due to this very little thing that we're going to be talking about today, which is why we were able to scale and to be able to help that many families. So real quick, before we get started on what prospecting is, I want you guys to write these words down for me real quick, for those of you guys that are taking notes. First word is decide. Second word is commit. Third word is act. Fourth word is succeed. And the final fifth word is repeat. Decide, commit, act, succeed, repeat. So I'm hoping by the end of this webinar today, you'll have a decision that you'll be making that you're going to commit to and act on, because 2023 is already here. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news that you think you got another 30 days. That show's already silent. We're already in February. Like, we really are already in February. And as an agent who has failed forward my third year, because I thought I knew everything, I quit prospecting in November because I had, deals closing. And then my pipeline died. And it wasn't until March of that next year, which would have been my fourth year, where I finally started getting some closings, which was very frightening. So for anybody who's ever thought that I'm never going to be in the dragon tail, trust me, it does happen. And the only reason why I was able to get my business back is by hitting the phones and prospecting. So real quick, what is prospecting? What does prospecting mean to you guys?
Is that a loaded question?
No, it's a simple question. Anybody can answer. What does prospecting mean to you? Gillian, tell me.
Forming relationships with people, meaningful relationships, so they trust you.
Okay. I like that one. Anybody else?
I would say, well, it's our job to get business.
Okay. I like that, Mary. Okay. So I like to always have my definition. And for those of you guys taking notes, I'd like to share with you prospecting for the purposes of tonight and our deciding, committing, acting, succeeding, and repeating. It's any activity or conversation that you are engaging to position yourself with the intention of getting in front of them. There should be no other definition other than this one. If you think about it, it takes work. It's an action. It doesn't do it itself. I wish this thing would ring itself or call itself. It doesn't. No, it is an activity. And for you to have a conversation to engage someone. Now, there are some differences real quick. And I always like to cover these because sometimes some of us think they're the same. What does and what is proactive prospecting?
Well, there's prospecting and marketing. Marketing is doing things, expecting inbound calls. Proactive prospecting is going out and doing the activities to make the connections directly, right?
Absolutely. But I think what happens a lot of the times, depending on where you are in your scale of being a realtor, sometimes that can get jumbled about the differences between proactive and reactive, and how much time we should be spending on both, and how you should be presenting yourself in having those two different types of conversations, because they are two different types of conversations. So for the purposes of what proactive, Jen, I see you unmuted. Tell me, drop it for me.
Oh no, I was going to add to Chris, where it's just that the active piece of seeking those connections and relationships so that you can then nurture and grow.
Absolutely. So I like to define it as outbound prospecting. Being something that's proactive is you're actually doing the calling out. They're not calling you. So that is proactive prospecting. The other aspect of proactive prospecting is something that some of us may have to do this next year, is something called an open house. That is proactive. You don't have to do it, right? But for some of us, that is a way to proactively build a book of business and build an inventory of potential sellers, right? The other thing, which I love having Chris on here about this, is being proactive is sending out updates and about your wins or about your career in any kind of social media aspect, right? Any type of education. That is also very much proactive. Door knocking. Some of us haven't had to do that in a minute, but I'm going to tell you that also is probably coming around the corner. And some of us may have to find ourselves doing that probably by Q2, because it could be with their anticipating with regards to sellers kind of dialing it back a little. So also proactiveness for those of you who hit the phones at 8 a.m. calling withdrawn and expires to try to create inventory. That's another proactive thing that we do. Now, the thing about proactive prospecting is we have to get our minds right about it. And this is usually where some agents don't like to do it. And you want to know why? You don't want to interrupt their day. You're insecure. You know, by picking up the phone and calling out, you are about to interrupt someone's day. They're not inspecting your phone call. And for a lot of us early on, or even senior agents, that can be slightly intimidating if your mind's not right, if you've had a bad day, if you're hungover, you've had like a desperation spell of things not going your way, right? So if your mind is not right and you're about to interrupt someone's day, the thing is that you still have to suck it up when you're making an outbound prospecting dial. You still have to appear enthusiastic and you still have to be confident, even though you may not have done a deal. That is something that most agents should go ahead and play all in on. The other thing with this, and depending on where you are, if you know about the DISC profile with regards to proactive prospecting, my S's and C's on this call, my what would be deemed a little bit of introvertish. When you are making proactive dials, here's a note to take. You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's going to take a minute for you to finally break free on that. And I can tell you, the more you do it, the better off you're going to be, but it's going to be uncomfortable as hell. Trust me. Sometimes there's tears involved. I've seen agents and coaching them. There's tears. We cried out, go to the conference room, get yourself back, get your ass back on the phones. Let's go. So in that too, now there is such a thing called reactive prospecting. Does anybody want to take a stab about what that is? I like Jen. You're like, you know, what's this? I don't know. I don't know the differences. And that's what the point of today is, right? Is we're trying to lay it out. Chris, you're about to answer.
Literally got nothing on this, but I'm all in. I want to hear it.
Well, is it when somebody asks you about real estate or about your business?
Well, reactive prospecting essentially is you're taking in the call, just like in what Chris said. Hey, Susanna, I don't make outbound calls. The calls come to me through other different areas. So you're not having to be the one that's hunting. You're the one being hunted, essentially, right? So you're literally answering an inbound phone call, which depending on how your brokerages are set up, some of us have, leads that do come in through the pipeline or phone shift, things like that. Some of us may even have sign calls. Your name is on a sign and it's your listing and someone's going to be calling you. Sometimes it's the consumer, sometimes it's the other agent. However that is, all of that is reactive prospecting. Why? Because they're calling you. They're coming to you. And the one thing for all of us, I was saying on the other side, like you got to get your mind right about interrupting someone's day. Well, what we got to get our mind right about on this aspect is we have to be okay being interrupted, because we don't know if that's $1 million deal or a $500,000 deal. We don't know who's on the other side of that phone. And we also have to understand that that person, whether it's a prospect or another agent, is calling us for their reasons and their reasons alone. And we may not have any data points about what they're calling us for. So we have to be ready. We have to have a system in place in how we answer the phone, right? Pretty much we have to have a set way. I mean, my friends will tell you to this day right now, 9 years in, I'm still going to answer, this is Susanna Medrano with Waters International Realty. I don't care if it's my friend asking me if I'm going to the barbecue. I'm still going to answer that, because sometimes you don't know who's on the other side of the end. Now, here is a little nugget about this aspect. My extroverts on this call, my D's and my I's, when it comes to reactive prospecting, you have to get very comfortable with being able to quickly persuade that person to give you your time. Because if you're an I, you're going to want to talk to that person about other things other than real estate. It's going to turn into diarrhea of the mouth. You're going to become a contractor, probably a lender, like things that you need to avoid. And if you're a D, who knows where that could go in a reactive type of setting. So real quick, I always want to go over the differences. Is everybody kind of okay with understanding the difference of reactive and proactive prospecting? Okay. Some ahas are happening right now about, wow, okay, how do I balance this, right? Because honestly, you should be spending about 10 to 15 hours doing both, mitigating that in your calendar. That's just another little side nugget I'll say. Now, the true reality of this, guys, is that I would imagine everybody on this call today wants to be a top producer if you're not already. And a top producer is going to always take full responsibility for the health of their pipeline. And how they do that is by creating opportunities. And sometimes those opportunities are going to require for you to make friends with your phone and use it in ways that you may not ever have had to use it in this profession before. Now, here's another true reality about this. No one wants to prospect after showing properties all day. I'm right there with you. Nobody wants to prospect after going on back-to-back listing appointments. Nobody wants to go prospect when you spend half of the day researching for properties, right? It's the last thing that we want to do. But I'm here to tell you, when it is not a priority, when it is not intentionally scheduled in your schedule, it doesn't happen. And you have no pipeline. You will have no deals. Like it is amazing to me how the simplicity of this, but when you're not being proactive in this matter, I have seen a lot of agents, unfortunately, see their way out of this business because of that very fundamental thing. And it's very sad to me because as much as it sucks, I always tell my agents, we always say it 3 times, prospecting sucks. Yes, it does. It sucks. Get it out of your system. Let's still hit the phones. We still have to do that because it is a thing that is needed. It's kind of like the first rite of passage as a realtor. You got to put in some time. And as you get better on the phones, guys, trust me, you don't have to do it as much. But that first year, sometimes that second year, it's going to suck. It's not going to be something that you're going to want to do. But that is literally what is going to separate how successful you become as a realtor and whether or not you're only going to do that 1 to 2 deals a year. Like it truly is the reality of it. Okay. So I want to break down. Yes, it's true. Yeah. I always say, wherever before we hit the phones, we say it all out. 3. Some of my agents say it way too enthusiastic. And then we just go. That's usually on Mimosa Friday when we're doing a call chat. All right. So I want you guys to okay, you're like, okay, Susanna, you kind of got me on the reactive aspect. You kind of got me on the proactive aspect. Okay. What's the point of it? Okay. I'm going to give you 4 points. The whole point of why you need to hit the phones, like already have an agenda, the 4 core objectives of prospecting. The first one is to set the appointment. That's the whole point why you're getting on the phone. Let's just make it simple. That's option number 1. I'm getting on the phone to set that appointment. The second point, if you're hitting the phones, is okay, I'm going to at least, okay, they don't want to meet me. That's fine. I at least want to gather enough information and qualify them about, are they 30 days out? Are they 60 days out? Are they a year out? So that I can go ahead and make a decision about whether or not this is a lead that I want to have, manifested here for the next however long it is. I know for those of you taking notes, I know. Now, some of us may get lucky. This is the third option that happens as far as it being an objective of prospecting. Guess what? That person actually wants to buy or sell their house. Lucky you played the lotto that night. You actually got them at the right time. Whether you were following up with that lead or whether it was your lucky day, you just happened to answer it. And then here is a reason some of us don't think is possible. But I'm here to tell you, I built my business by doing this. I mean, it took me a minute to find those 45 buyers that first year, but a lot of it were 6 months out. And the 4th concept, guys, is to build familiarity with you and your name and who you are. They might not be ready now, but when they are, guess who they're going to call? That person who's been leaving them nonstop voicemails, text messages, emails that nobody ever answers. Don't ever send an email. Nobody answers that shit. Text messages, maybe. Voicemails, depending on if they're really, really good, we'll have a class about that, like compelling voicemails that actually get returned. But the bottom line is they're starting to hear who you are and what you do. And at some point, you may actually win them over because of your persistence. So those are 4 core reasons of when you're about to get on the phone, you need to be thinking about, okay, my point is to get that appointment. If not, at least I'm going to get enough information to put them in my pipeline. If not, it may be my lucky day and, somebody's sending me a gift. They're ready to go. Or at least, guess what? They're going to start to get to know who I am. Okay. Any questions so far there on those 4 concepts there?
No questions, but I will say at the end of it, they would say like, "Hi, Susanna," after that 10th voicemail.
Oh yeah. You know what's even better, Jen, is when your name ends up on a new construction build because you've been following up with them and they thought, I've had this happen twice in my career. They automatically sent me as a realtor. They took my information to a new build. I wasn't even there. The sales consultant called me and said, they're like, this girl's our realtor. She's calling us all the time. In fact, she's the one that sent us this information. So I get a phone call and I actually meet them at the walkthrough. Like, I'm telling you, like, it is, and it can be that simple.
Sweet.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful as it is, right? So here are some guidelines for those of you who are like, okay, Susanna, you know what? I am deciding and committing and acting to succeed, to repeat into this action. Okay, here's some rules. First off, prospecting guidelines. The first thing, guys, you have to set a daily time and place when you do it, uninterrupted. Me personally, I would make my prospecting dials at 8 in the morning till about 9:30, 3 times a week. And on Tuesday, Thursdays, if I didn't have showings, it'd be 5:30 to 7:30, so that I could at least catch people differently until I had a minimum of 5 appointments booked for the weekend or for the week. The only way that gets done, trust me, I've coached just a couple thousand agents over my 4 years, is if you actually take the effort to set a daily time and place and have everything there. I'm a fan of a prospecting binder. I like to have all my stuff all in one little thing, and then like be able to take all my notes and then plug it into whatever CRM your broker may be on you about KPIs, Yoseke, metrics, and all this stuff that doesn't really mean a lot until you're like in leadership, right? But I'm telling you, sometimes when you have that binder, it keeps you in tune with everything. The second thing you got to do for prospecting is you got to fight off all distractions. Do you know how many agents I catch on Facebook or social media or some sort of thing when they're supposed to be making their dials? As much or working on an offer. It's like, you know what? I'm so proud of you, Chris, that you are working on an offer during your prospecting time, but that's not going to get you another offer. You can do this in 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and play all in, and let's go ahead and knock this out to set yourself up. Also, the third aspect of this is you got to follow the plan. If you are intending to make dials on a Thursday morning, then you make dials on a Thursday morning. And you got to be faithful to you. If my thing is I am going to prospect for an hour and a half, or I'm going to at least try to get 20 new people that I call. Of course, 20 ends up like 7 contacts out of that, right? That's the point. I don't give up at dial 19. I go 20. I've seen agents come in, make 3 dials, and they're so exhausted by those 3 dials, taking up a whole hour because they're researching the lead prior to calling it. Again, just be faithful to what you start. This actually, it's going to help you in getting yourself just kind of in tune. It's almost like an exercise, right? I've tried to do some healthy things this last year, and I started running miles at the track on the weekends. And I mean, man, it's taken me like 6 months to keep mile under 10 minutes. 6 months, but it's the same kind of thing. If you think about, if I'm going to spend 3 hours on the phone, I'm going to say, don't spend 3 hours on the phone. Start with 30 minutes. Do it right, go to an hour, do it right, go to an hour and a half. See where your threshold is where you don't lose your energy. Because I believe Chris is giving me the opportunity to come back next week and talk about how to time block that. And that's a whole other thing that I'm going to help you guys as far as rearrange and carve that out. Now, what I would encourage everybody, because prospecting does suck, what if we actually substituted that word for work? Who's had an 8 to 5 job in this? We've had to show up because you were showing up for some miles, right? We all have at some point. So we would show up, right? We wouldn't not show up to work, right? We would show up at whatever the time we were supposed to. What if we do a little mind trick to ourselves and we substitute that word for actual work? Because work sometimes can be fun, something you're passionate about. Hell, you're about to make a crap ton of money. This is a great way to be able to do that. And I will tell you, in my first 2 years, when I did this exact thing, it made it bearable for me. It at least was an opportunity for me to really, really get my mind right about what it was. Let me take a quick little pause here. How is everybody doing so far?
I love it.
Okay. So we know what proactive prospecting is, reactive prospecting is. We know the whole point of why you should. We all know how you should, right? You're probably thinking, okay, Susanna, I'm ready to make dials. Like maybe someone's told me the script or this or that. Well, I'm not even actually going to go into scripts today because I think we can have all the scripts in the world. But if we don't know the fundamental flow of how a call should go, there's no point in having a script. So my point today is to just go over how a phone call should go. so that you can anticipate based on this foundation. Okay, maybe I should have an intro here, or maybe I should do the reason for my call here, or maybe this is where I need to start asking this question, right? Because I think a lot of us come from all different backgrounds of brokerages, but what I have always found, and I've always gotten upset, is we don't go over how to make the damn call. Like nobody tells us what we should anticipate. We're told probably on our third day, pick up the phone and dial, right? And then we know what we know. So what I want us to really think about, who is the last telemarketer or someone who called you? How was that for you?
Mortgage people like 7 times a day now. But
I'm going to give you guys a challenge and a homework. And I did this for all of my teams, and it was the most eye-opening thing. Nobody likes to pick up their spam, right? Nobody likes to do those. We just ignore. Can y'all humor me and do this exercise for me starting tomorrow? Pick it up, give them 2 minutes, see how they pitch you and see how uncomfortable they make you. Because guess what? Some of us agents are doing that exact same thing that they're doing. Better to know what is giving us the creepy caller. So here's the first thing. Before I even go into the flow, let me tell you the first thing. I did this experiment live with my team. I picked up every spam call during an 1.5-hour training with my team. It's a true thing. The first person calls me. I picked it up, and it was solar panels. Somebody's trying to sell me solar panels. The first thing they say is this Susanna Medrano? Okay. Think of somebody in the first couple of seconds saying your name, and even though your name may be normal, I know mine slightly sometimes isn't, depending on where you are in the country, right? It's Susanna Medrano, but not everybody gets that right. I give you 3 chances, and then after 3 chances, then there's going to be a fight and some education on Latin America. But here's the thing. Think of when someone says, "Hi, is this Jason O?" You automatically sit back and you're like, who is this person? What are they trying to sell me on, right? You automatically start going through all these emotions of like, I'm already going to tell this person no. So here's solar panel number 1. They're calling me. They misspelled my name. I went ahead for all intents and purposes, gave them 2 minutes. I then told them, after they went on a whole spill about all these rebates and benefits, like da 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 da. I wasn't even allowed. I timed it. Like it was for the first 1.5 minutes. Was I allowed to finally speak? Then I told them I was a realtor and I'm not interested. I don't believe in solar panels, which I if you have solar panels, sorry, it's just here in Texas. There's no point. It's hotter than hell, and there's never any reason to try to get those on your roofs. But okay, that was failure number 1. The thing is, the is how they even addressed me to begin with. It automatically put me in a mindset of like, I'm not going to talk to this person. Second person calls. Same thing. They misspell my name. That's totally fine. It's very normal. This is Medicare. I don't know how they got my number. I'm only 40. I just turned 46, right? So as I begin to tell this person that I am only 45, they literally said, "Oh, sorry, click, hang up." They hang up on me. Like, boom. Okay, sorry for that. You see where I'm getting at. But my point is, guys, is it's okay to go ahead and do your own little research to see what people are doing really, really bad. And guess what? That same consumer could be answering your call. Like, if you think about it, they're going to be answering your call. How are you going to make yourself different to where they give you at least 3 minutes of their time? So I would start there. Pick up some spam calls, grunt and bear it. I will tell you, fun fact, on the fifth person that called me, I did end up giving a $10 donation to a local theater. They said my name correctly. They automatically gave me the warm and fuzzies. It wasn't even about the damn theater for like 2 minutes. It was just about my day. And I'm like, oh my God, do I know this? I don't know about this person, right? And then because of how great that experience was, and of course I was on a live call, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give you a $10 donation for this old theater. So it's just a very, 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 very important fun fact. All right, let's go into the flow of a call. So here is what is going to happen. A typical simplify prospecting phone call. The first thing that happens is the initiation of contact. Either you're contacting them or they're contacting you. Let's go ahead and get that step number 1 out of the way. It's true. You're initiating contact, okay? Step number 2. This kind of goes into it's kind of like the road, two little roads, right? They answer, okay, great. You got them on the phone. Or, guess what happens? You get their voicemail. What do you do? And I'm just curious right here. Who leaves voicemails, by the way? Jen and Jillian, how often do you leave voicemails? Because I actually do leave voicemails, but it's very intentional when I do it.
Well, I mean, I do, but not on a cold call. Like, let's say if it was a referral or a lead or a referral, I do always leave a voicemail and follow it up with either a text or an email, depending what, or both, if I have their information. But I'm a chipper person, so I let that sucker shine through my voicemail.
I honestly don't like to leave voicemails on the first time if it goes to it, but I will do this. I will hang up and I will double tap them. All right, Jillian, if you do this, don't hate me next week when we see each other. But here's what's going to happen. Has anybody been double tapped? What happens when someone double taps you?
You're like, man, this must be important.
You answer.
Okay.
So I will not leave a voicemail the first time, but I will hang up, and usually within 5 seconds, I'll call back. And then pending if they answer or don't, I may leave a voicemail or I may not, but at least I tried. I'm just still trying to create a reaction out of this person. Now, let's just say they answer. Okay, great. Then guess what you have to do? Third step here. You have to say hello and speak in a normal, authentic manner. You got to introduce yourself and who you work for with pride. Doesn't matter. Vice versa. Like, you got to do that. Do you know how many agents don't? And that's why a lot of the consumers classify us as just a regular salesperson. We're not. We're at the highest profession. Like, we make more money than most other professions if we do it right. Now, here's the 4th aspect that's going to happen in this infamous call. They're not expecting your call if you're calling them, right? We got to be okay with that. We got to acknowledge that we did maybe interrupt their day and say something immediately that's going to build credibility. You know what, Daniel? Reason why I was reaching out today is I really wanted to see if you had the chance to see the inside of any homes. He would probably respond, wait, what? You really want to go show me houses? My question in asking that is I'm already trying to get in the agency aspect of it. Like, he may say, yes, actually I have. Okay, fine. Are you already represented? Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Great. But here's the thing. The consumer right now, because they have been beat up this last year with multiple offers, and there is an element of fear. A lot of us on this call, and those of you listening, may have to loosen up a little bit on the qualification aspect to try to get them out of their fear state. So we may have to make concessions and go and show them some things that we normally would not, and possibly even delay conversations until we're face to face where we can build credibility. Again, I'm not here to go anything against what your current brokerage is telling you. I'm just telling you what was how I was able to scale very quickly in my career. When I figured that out, because when I started in 2013, that was kind of the market, kind of like where it is now, not to the degree. Interest rates were at 7, by the way, 7.5%. That was normal in 2013. So with that, you may have to do that. Okay. So that's the 4th layer. Now, the 5th aspect of this now is, here's the thing. They're probably going to resist you. Let's go ahead and anticipate that. So we have to be prepared to ask a question at that point. Usually it's to, let's go see the house, or let's meet me at my office, right? We're already anticipating that first objection. A lot of us are going to quit right there, by the way. The step 5. A lot of us quit until we find out that we only have $5 in our bank account, and it's like, well, shit, I might as well push it for the second time that they tell me no. And you find this out pretty quickly. You got to push yourself, guys, right? So, okay, they object. Step number 6. Okay, we are going to respond, and we are going to actually acknowledge that objection that they just give us. We're going to pause too. A lot of us are going to be probably very uncomfortable with that pause, but we're collecting our thoughts. What will happen for some consumers when you're pausing is they get uncomfortable and are going to say additional data points that you want them to say, by the way. Okay, so here's what's going to happen again. You're going to ask them for the meeting or the showing, whatever it is, right? You're going to do it again. Okay, here's the thing. They're going to refute you again. Anticipate at least 2 or 3 ops that they are going to be saying to you. And here's the thing, and I, again, I'm not going to go against what your broker says. I always like to go at least three no's, and then after 3 no's, I'm not going to get on someone's like nasty website of like some ratings, right? That's just me personally. But I'm at least going to, at least at this point, usually after the second no, we typically are able to go ahead and give them enough carrots in order for them to want to meet us, because that means that we have shown them value, that they trust us. So at this layer, you may have to start thinking in terms of, what do I need to say and do? How can I build credibility? Well, this is where you become a market expert. And this is going to be really, really important as we're going into 2023. A lot of you guys didn't have to necessarily be a market expert because the market was so crazy. You just showed up the house, write the offer, and you're like one of 30 other offers, whatever it was. Well, now you may need to know a little bit about a little bit more about the situation. So I know some of you guys are taking notes. So let me go ahead and quickly share where we are with this. So I don't want to leave you high and dry. Don't worry. Like I promised Chris, I'm gonna send this slide deck over to him, and then you guys are gonna have access to it. So for those of you that are writing notes or just kind of like, what the hell, this is just going too quick. Don't worry, guys. Like I'm gonna do you a solid, because this basically is going to tell you where this is. So what I would do when you get this slide deck is I would go ahead and develop an incoming and an outcoming script just for 2023. Like, if knowing the flow, what are you going to say and how are you going to say it in order to go ahead and anticipate it? Because here's what happens, I think. And the reason why a lot of us may not have a call flow is a lot of us don't want to anticipate that resistance. It's uncomfortable. But what if we actually prepared for that resistance? And where I'm getting at with this is good old role play. If a lot better to screw up with one of your fellow agents for 15, 20 minutes before I get on the phones. So at least I can anticipate what someone's going to say. I'm not going to hit the phones cold, like at least. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of us realtors have gotten away from, is we're not doing enough role play. Why waste your opportunity on that opportunity that's a real opportunity when I could actually fumble through it with another accountability partner within your brokerage? So in order to anticipate, we already know they're going to we already know they're going to complain about the interest rate. We already know that they're going to complain that the market is crazy. We already know that. So have we done anything to write down how we plan on mitigating that? And if you don't, at what point do you say, if not now, when? And honestly, guys, that's part of it. Like, we have to come up with solutions. No one's going to trust us as a realtor if we cannot tell someone on the phone that they have options. And that comes with time, and that comes with practice. So again, that's the flow. So here's the thing. I want everybody, because I know we're running into that time. I was thinking about this whenever I'm always talking about, how the consumers can resist us as realtors and why. For those of you with children, or for those of you who want to channel your 3-year-old self, when someone told you no, what would you do? You didn't care, right, Chris? I can already know. Someone would tell you no, what would you do?
Well, I was just thinking of my toddler. They just power right through it.
Chris, you took the words out of my mouth. Like, literally power through like a bulldozer. Like, but.
until they break you down and like, okay, here's $7,000. It's enough.
So again, some of us may need to channel that little person in ourselves. Because guess what? Our 3-year-old self, if we were told no, it meant absolutely nothing. It meant absolutely nothing. What if we channeled that little 3-year-old self, and when prospecting, the same damn thing happens? It means nothing. Oh, they said no. Oh, guess what? No one has died from prospecting, guys, not to my knowledge. No one, no one has had a fatality by picking up the phone and calling someone. Some of us may get slapped with an $11,000 fine, but that's okay. Do not call. That's again, get into your rules with your brokerage. But I definitely want to end this with 2 points, because I think you guys gave me to like 7:50, and then I know we're supposed to have some Q&A. The 2 points I want to make, the first one is that if you're not happy with your current results, you have 3 options. I'm gonna be real with you right now. If you're not happy with your results, you have 3 choices. The first one is you just live with it. You just live with it. I'm not happy. Okay. Second choice is I'm not happy, and you know what? This isn't for me. I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to go back and just do my normal, whatever I was doing prior, suck it up, go back to the daily grind. Or the third option is you can actually do something and change it. And that's what the beautiful aspect of right now, as we are ending this year, is there's still a lot of time left on the clock for you to end this year with some of these basic fundamentals, to where when you hit January 1st or 2nd, you're already there. You're already doing and putting in the work. So might as well go ahead and grin and bear it. My second point that I want to end with before we get into some Q&A is something, Facebook memories popped up. It's like 9.5 years ago, I had my first closing. And there's a picture of me and my wife were celebrating over dinner at this first closing. And I sit in front of you today with just kind of reminiscing about that moment. It's like, little did I know the direction that this specific profession was going to take me in at that first closing. And I can already tell some of us on this call, some of you guys have some serious raw talent, but you got to keep pushing yourself to stay getting that comfortability with that uncomfortability, right? You also have to keep pushing yourselves to go all in as to why you are in real estate to begin with. There's probably a whole deeper layer. One day I'll maybe share with you mine. Like that should make me get up every morning and give it hell. Also, the other aspect on this is that we also have to continue pushing ourselves and wrestling every single opportunity that is presented to us. And some of that, unfortunately, is going to have to put in time in prospecting. So if you have leads, great. If you don't, find a place that gives them to you. If you need a step, if you have tools or you don't have tools, fine. Again, it goes back to those choices. Are you gonna stay with it? Are you gonna leave it? Or are you gonna make a change? And then finally, find someone to mentor you or leadership. I love the fact that this group meets in these calls, because I think this is an amazing opportunity for you to be in a collaborative, to be able to just share ideas and just stay connected and stay motivated, because that is a key thing. So again, I hope I didn't take up too much time, but wanted to open up real quick to Q&A.
You did great. Yeah, by the way, thank you for noting that the power of meeting with regular people. We do have a good core group of people we meet every week, and we developed quite a bond, so it's cool. It's funny you were covering the word no, because we just went through our negotiations training. The word no doesn't mean no. It means not necessarily, at least not most of the time. It usually means I don't have enough information to say yes at the time, or maybe just not right now. Right? Those are the 2 things it usually means. Sometimes it really means no, but usually that's not the case.
Rarely it doesn't mean that. It's usually a brush off or some sort of a thing to entice you, or to give you hope that they're actually going to be ready late. Yeah, it's a whole nother concept. Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount, by the way, is a good book to read.
Great book, yeah.
To just really get yourself and your mind right about prospecting. I read it every year because that first chapter lights a serious fire under my you know what.
Great book. I've read it too. I can totally just take over, which is a flaw I have. So I'm going to be quiet and let other people. Before I do that, I am going to put a link to the podcast that Susanna and I did that made me be attracted to her, probably like you guys are. So definitely give that a listen and hear some other nuggets that we spoke about. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I'd actually like to address a comment in the chat. Julie Setterlin had a good question about your binder. Can you share what or how you have it set up at some point?
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. This thing is 9.5 years old. It's falling apart, but I still have it, right? I'm a social worker by trade, so I like to keep everything nice and tight. I never knew where I was going to be, what fight I was going to be at, like that kind of thing. So, go to Walmart, Target, get yourself a little 99-cent, $1.99 binder. And in this binder, I basically have like my script, like in the front, so that as I'm, if I'm forgetting, I can always refer to my script that I'm going to be saying to someone. In here, I also have a lender guide of all the current rates and different kinds of like, what is the minimum thing for FHA, thing for conventional, all the different types of loan programs and such. I just like to have that as a refresher. The other thing is I like to have in real form, title companies are the best. A lot of our boards too are going to have free maps of just areas. So again, if I get you on the phone, I am not letting you off it without an appointment. So I am going to ass backwards, fall and have everything at the tip of my fingers and become the expert of it. So area maps is also something very, very important to have in your prospecting binder. I have all my scripts, English and Spanish here, in case I ever needed to find, revert. The other thing is I have, and Chris, I can share this with you to share it with the group. I have my own grading sheet of things that I know that I would like to, if everything's in alignment, what I want to cover on the call, so that I know that I have all the information that I need in order to make a judgment about whether or not I want to help that person. Some of us may have call sheets. I personally like just blank pieces of paper to where I just write down the person's name, email, phone number. I'm writing it down. Other than what happens is you get all turned up with CRMs and then your MLS and then all these other apps that your brokerage probably has. It's like, oh my God, I'm more nervous about getting that shit wrong than actually talking to the person. So for me, I would just write it on a blank piece of paper, go for the full hour prospecting, then at the end of every day or the end of whenever I was in the office, transfer all my notes into the damn CRM so I could count for whatever KPIs my broker needed, right? And I think for me too, what's great is I would travel with this anywhere. So if I'm in my car, pull over, granted, I can't say that I would pull over all the time, but if somebody was calling me back, I can make a note that so-and-so called me back so that I could update what I needed to update, or I could pull over and go ahead and get the information, because a lot of the times what happens is we overpromise on the phone when we're on the fly. And then it's that one thing we forget to do that we promise someone on the phone. But if I have it written down for me personally, there's no way that I'm going to forget. Now, what I like to do is after, 2 or 3 months of having everybody in here, they're either part of my pipeline or not. So then I may call through everybody through here one more time. And if I don't get them, I purge them, they're out of my binder. So then by the end of the year, I have only the people that I'm working with in my binder. So that's in theory how I have utilized a prospecting binder. Sorry for the long end of the answer, but it's just.
No, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Do you, when you, in the front of the binder, it looked like you had a 1-page sheet.
Yeah, the Barbara.
You have yours.
Yeah, the Barbara Corkin LP Mama, even though I complain about it, I like to still have, that's the foundation of everything. If we don't know LP Mama, then we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. This is the foundational script that we should know about location and motivation. And you can actually download this usually for free. It'll give you the certain questions that you should ask around each category.
So Susanna, I totally know what LP Mama, but I'm asking for other people.
Me too.
L is for location. P is for price. The next M is motivation. The next A is agency. Are they already working with an agent? The final M is mortgage. And then in closing, the last is the appointment. So location, price, motivation, agency, mortgage, and or appointment. Now, I will tell you, you got to know it but it doesn't necessarily as effective as just getting to the chase of just asking for the business up front and then leaning on these certain questions to get enough to where you feel comfortable that they're qualified enough. But here's the thing. A lot of us don't know what we don't know. So I'm going to say, get to know this really, really well, grin and bear it, to where when you finally graduate on the phones, meaning that you're actually getting appointments and some traction and making some money, then what you can start doing is, my opening question is always, have they seen the inside of any houses? Because that's going to get a key indicator for me about whether or not they have an agent or not, because I'm not going to waste my time with someone that does. No offense, right? I do the whole professional courtesy, yada, yada, yada. But then the next thing is, in an ideal world, would you be paying cash or needing financing? Because I also want to isolate that sort of question, kind of get that out of the way before I sell them on a lender. I at least want to be prepared on that aspect. And then, what do you like about the house? Rate it from a 1 to 10. Like what do you like about that house? And are there any others that you would like to see when I meet you on, Saturday at 1 or 3, right? So again, LP Mama, and then now there's the more like newer version of just cutting to the chase.
I love that it's on one page and you can kind of have that in the front.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you can go to Corcoran. In fact, I will scan all the things that we've talked about on this session to Chris so that he can get this all out, or to Daniel, so you guys can get all of this out of what we've been talking about today.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right. So we're at 9:00. Awesome. If you have questions, by all means, feel free to ask it after I do my little ending spiel. So guess what? If you need more Susanna besides the podcast, guess where she's going to be next Tuesday night? Round 2, baby, right here in the same spot. Right? I think you are, right? You're still showing up?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's all about time blocking. Like, what does a realtor's time should be and look like? And it's a really good refresher, especially as we're starting into next year, to really make sure that we're ready. Is anybody fans of Yellowstone on this call? Okay. Rip Wheeler has a quote, and I know, Chris, you probably don't see Yellowstone because you don't watch TV, but there's this quote that he says, it's hard to measure almost because almost doesn't matter. There is no almost in sales. There is no almost in real estate, right? It either is or it isn't. And so when he said that, I'm like, man, that's so true. There is no almost in this. You either have a closing or you don't have a closing. You either have an appointment or you don't have an appointment. Sorry, I got sidetracked, Chris. You got me all like hot and bothered, ready for this. So yeah, next week, next Tuesday.
Those script writers are good. No, so yeah, honestly, I've been on a big kick with my agents, our team. I don't own them. About time blocking, because I get asked all the time, like, how do you get so much done? And it's time blocking, and it sounds so boring, so I never talk about it. But it's the biggest anxiety lifter you could ever have. You never not know what your day is going to be or what you should be doing. So I started really pushing it hard. You'll see your production and your happiness soar. You take your life back, but I'll let you teach that next week. I won't steal the show. And after that, I was going to teach. I've never taught anything about buyers before, because I don't think we should be focusing on buyers, but I felt like I should have done a class, and I was fully intended to do that. But something cooler has landed on our lap. Maurice Lamson and Andrew Lamson with Maurice Marketing. They are a marketing agency that focuses on building Instagram channels, mostly for real estate agents. And they're fantastic. They're going to do a guest spot. How I found them was I was on a speaking event, and they were on the dais with me. And I saw the word Instagram mastermind, and I instantly rolled my eyes. No offense to anyone, but when I see the word mastermind, I'm like, okay, I've heard everyone calls himself a mastermind. I'm like, no, you're not. Just because you say you are. Anyways, that's a side thing. But then I saw Instagram too, and I'm like, okay, everyone's teaching it. So I saw the two together, and I kind of blew it off. But then as she was speaking, I'm like, those are some really damn good points. That's really good. And then I went to go talking to them after, and they went on the podcast. We stayed in touch, and then I'm actually hiring them to consult my team in January to run our Instagram in 2023. Really good stuff. They're going to guest host and teach all their tactics, because we did not teach Instagram this year. We taught it last year. But this year we're gonna do a one classer after Susanna next week. So that's happening after that. So I just want to kind of, in case you can't make it next week and you want to come into the Instagram class, that's 2 weeks from now. And that's my spiel. If you have any other questions for Susanna, now's the time.
I did not have a question. I just really appreciated your energy, your info, and just all the above. I found it very informational and just inspiring. I really liked it. I mean, I'm not blowing hot air up your booty. I'm just telling you.
Okay, here to help. Here to help.
Exactly. I wanted to say the same thing as Jen, but I did have a question. Did you start with FSBOs, expireds, buyers? Like, who were you calling? What was your first set of calls?
Yeah, my first year, and this should be it's very interesting. The way we're set up in my brokerage is you start off on the buyer side of things until you've proven yourself, and then you actually cross train onto the listing side. So my first year was dialing all those leads that convert at 1%. So all those Facebook target ads, Google AdWords, ZillowRealtor.com, those typically convert at 5%. So I made my first year career by literally calling everyone and everything that was provided to me that was on the top of funnel, right? Not the bottom of funnel, which a lot of us may have luxury. But so I can tell you, I've been told a lot of no's. And I'm glad that I went through that, because it allowed me to just get to the chase quicker.
Will some of your scripts be in the information that you send over? Or
Sure.
can you email some of this?
I have some that I will be emailing it over to the gents, and probably by tomorrow morning for just a quick little packet that they can send out to everybody. I have no problem sharing that. It's all about playing it forward, and this is just if anything, Chris, I will encourage you, Chris Taylor, not the other Chris Taylor, is take what you like and make it your own. Like, I want to hear authentic Chris Taylor, right? Not Susanna Medrano. Right. A lot of us, we get a script and it's like, all of a sudden you're like Dirk Zeller, and it just doesn't land. No, what I want to encourage you to do is like, what I like what I'm hearing is like, hey, I want to see what you're saying and see if there's anything there that may be able to help me sound better on the phone. And I just want to encourage you, when you take a script, use it, but see what you like about it, what's creating results, and then plug that into your own personal authentic script.
Right, exactly. Cool. Appreciate it.
If people can't be here next week and they want to have a connection with you, you do coaching and training if you want to go to another level. If that's the case, where do they find you? And we'll put it in the chat.
Sure. They can find me on Instagram, Susanna.Medrano. I'm also on Facebook, and then they can go to Waters with 2 T's International Realty and just reach out to me that way.
Okay, cool. So we are all set for today, right? Everyone's good. This was a good little different deviation to what we're used to. Totally different way that we've been, we've been teaching over the past 2 years. And that's why she's here, to give you another option. If you weren't here in the beginning of this, we said we're trying to give you every possible way to succeed, where the only way you can't succeed if you simply don't do. Not that the information's not there and the motivation and the camaraderie is not there, is if you don't do. And this was another example of awesome stuff coming from Susanna that I hope was inspiring, because it definitely inspired me. All right.
See you, Chris and Daniel. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, everyone. You're welcome. Thank you. And we'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same place.
Sure. All right. Everybody have a good rest of the week.
Night.
Thank you. It's fantastic.
Bye.